there's the noise I wanted to hear. Now I'm recording my screen. Okay, so in third session, we're in 3ds Max. I talked about using help in the getting started movies. And now what I want to do is go through the process of actually creating a SnowPerson. So there's a lot going on the screen here. If you're new to it, I appreciate you bearing with me for a minute. There is a panel over here next to my head, and the one with the plus sign is where we create things. So just above my head, you want to be on the plus sign. And then we can create, in this marble shape right here, we're going to create a simple primitive, standard primitive, and we're going to grab a sphere, which is basically a ball shape. So to create most of these things, you're going to click and then drag and then let go. Sometimes you click, drag, let go, and click, drag again if there's more than one parameter. If I click in the middle of the world here and drag, it creates a sphere, and when I let go, the sphere has been created. If I were to use a different object, and I'm temporarily going to put a teapot in the world because it's going to help you understand how these viewports work. So I'm going to go to teapot, and when I click and drag to create the teapot, you'll notice that in the different viewports, it gives you a perspective looking down or from the side or from the front. And so the viewports are all looking at the same scene. There's not 4 spheres and 4 teapots. It's 4 different views of the same scene. So I don't need to use the teapot. So with it highlighted, I'm just going to press delete and get rid of it. I also could have done an undo, Control Z, which might sound familiar. Now, as I create objects in my scene, on the left-hand side, I'm going to move my head over there. You'll see I have a name of a sphere. It's called Sphere 001, which maybe I could manage Sphere 1, 2, and 3 for 3 snowmen, but by the time I get the buttons and the mouth, I could end up with a lot of them. So as you create them, click a second time on that and actually just change it to something like SnowPerson dash base or bottom or whatever it is. And so now I've named the object. It'll be easier to identify in the scene. You can change the color very easily, and it's just the color on the screen, it's not the material, by clicking on the swatch, color swatch next to an object's name. Now to select an object, there's 3 keys that you're going to use a lot. I'm going to move my head up there to highlight where they are in the toolbar. And these same three control structures are used in the Unreal Engine, as well as in Mudbox, in most tools, I think. They are move, which looks like the 4 arrows there. That's the W key. And for touch typing, W, E, and R are right next to each other. So W, E, and R, you're going to be using those 3 keys repeatedly to switch from move, rotate, and scale. So because there's no need for 4 viewports when I'm working in a sphere, I'm going to simply maximize the perspective viewport by clicking in the lower right-hand corner over here to bring up one single viewport. So by touching W for select and move, which is the same as clicking on the arrows at the top here, I can then click on an object and select it and then move it around. Now this is called a widget, vocabulary word. The widget, as I change my viewport, will indicate an X, Y, and Z using a color coding. I have a small, let's call this an origin grid that's in view. And if I create objects, some of them will snap to it. I can also turn on a grid by touching G, and that's the same as in Mudbox. If I were to drag it, just by clicking on one of these colors, I'm only changing it back and forth on the X-axis. If I do the red one, I'm sorry, that was Y, X, and the blue one is Z or Z. So that's moving an object. Now to duplicate this object, yes, you could right-click and clone it, but that's something different. An easy way to make a copy is to hold Shift and then move. And when you let go, it'll ask you, do you want to make a copy? So if this is my base, I'm going to pull on the Z, holding Shift to make a copy. So my mouse, I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to click on Z, and I'm going to drag up. And you'll notice what's happening. I'm leaving a fair amount of overlap. And when I let go, of the mouse key and the button, it says, what do you want to do here? Do you want to make a copy? Do you want to make a clone? What is it you want to do? So SP is right for SnowPerson, but I'm going to call this middle. You could call it body if you wanted to. SP-body. So I know what it is I'm talking about. And now you'll notice it's larger. Larger than I want it to be, I should say. In fact, generally speaking, your SnowPerson is going to get smaller as you go up. So to change the size of this or scale, remember W, E, and R? So I know R sounds like it should be rotate, but R is actually scale. And so above my head here, you'll see that there is what we call a rollout. If I click on this and hold it, you'll see I've got what's called uniform scale, and you've got non-uniform scale, and you've got singular scale. I'm going to want to do a uniform scale, meaning all three are changing at the same time. And you'll notice the middle of my widget is yellow here. So if I click on that in the middle and I drag down, I've downsized this object. So to repeat, the process of making a copy is with an object selected, which is done with the W key. You're going to hold down Shift, and you're going to drag one of the arrows in a direction, leaving a lot of overlap. And when you let go, it's going to ask you to name it. So this is going to be SP for SnowPerson head. So now I've got a head. It needs to be resized. So W for move, E for rotate, R for scale. I'll touch R, make sure I'm in the middle, and I'll scale it down. That's about as far as I need you to get today. But if you like what you're doing, I'd like you to continue to decorate it. I'd like you to do the same process and make some small spheres and make eyes. Decorate it with some buttons. Now, since you're not snapping right on the top, it's going to be a little weird orienting yourself in 3D space. It's going to be a little disorienting. You can use any of the primitives that you see here on the right. I'm going to briefly just highlight that there's a cylinder. And if I created a cylinder, now this is one where it's not just click, drag, and release. If I click, drag, and then release, all I've done is set two of the parameters. And as I continue to drag with my mouse, I set a third parameter. Now I've got this odd-looking stick in 3D space here. Well, I see here it's cylinder 001. I'm going to call this arms. It's going to use one stick through the middle of the body. I'm going to change the color of it, just like I don't know if I've shown you this yet. I can change the color by clicking on the swatch and then picking a color. If you don't like the colors that are in the default, you can pick a different one. Remember W, E, and R. I'm going to go to E for rotate. And I'm going to use the rotate widget to rotate it. And I'm going to use the move widget to move it into position. I'm going to spear right through the middle of my SnowPerson here. Ah! There you go. Now he's got arms. If I rotate around from other positions, it's not centered at all. So now I've got a stick fitting painfully through my SnowPerson. Now I just noticed, and this is not essential, I just noticed I'm working on the right rather than in the front. That's okay. This is going to be the face for my SnowPerson. Tomorrow we'll talk about modifying the shapes so they look more like what you might want. A sphere. Remember, as we created a sphere before, we can set a sphere to a particular property, change its color. I'm going to make this one black. And then I'm going to use the move tool to move it up and try to put it on the face. That's a big eye. That's a monstrously big eye for this particular SnowPerson.
Hello and welcome to 3ds Max. Most of your commonly used commands will be found here in the main menu.
Someone's in the startup.
Here is where you'll find the most frequently.
If you don't hear it, I do.
Including move, rotate, and scale. The command panel here and the modeling ribbon here are where you can edit selected objects. Most properties are found in the Modify tab of the
Oh, he looks sad, doesn't he?
And you'll find that each viewport has its own menu to control that viewport's display. You can click with the right mouse button to reveal the quad menu, which gives you convenient access to quite a few handy tools.
How's it going out there, guys?
You can learn more about importing content, editing.
I'm going to look and see what's going on in the lab.
Animation,
Oh, wait, someone's got a Fez hat on theirs. That's awesome.
Lighting and rendering in the other 1-minute movies.
Some people have got total snow people out there. That's awesome. I think I forgot to stop my recording, didn't I? That's going to be annoying to some people. So this one I can hide, and this one I'm going to